Hi, everybody. Welcome to Trauma Talks and Truths. It's Dr. Isela Garcia and Nina Vasquez. Hi. Today we're going to talk about presence. What is presence and why it's so important? Are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I got feedback on that. Keep going.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we're talking about presence today, not the presence that, you get to unwrap, not those kind of presents, but being in the present moment. And uh, Isela is going to look at YouTube and check something out. And while she does, I am going to share with you my relationship with presence and kind of where I woke up to it real quick and see if this resonates with you. And then as you're coming on, say hi to us. We want to hear from you. We want to talk if you're here on live. Um, Several years ago, I was working in corporate, and I had a friend of mine who shared with me the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. The reason why she shared it with me was we were in a meeting. Imagine corporate office, you're around like a big, large table. We were in a meeting, and I lost my shit during this meeting with these supervisors. And I don't remember what I lost my shit about, but she tells a story like, I knew something else was bothering you. It couldn't have been this actual meeting and what we were talking about. And so later she shared that book with me. And what I found when I read it is it was almost next to impossible for me to be in the present moment with myself. Um, I was always somewhere else. I had learned to disassociate, uh, disconnect from my body. Basically, my mind was somewhere else. And so I struggled with memory, remembering things that people told me, memory of things that happened, it could be last week, years ago. I was often not present. I stayed in a place of fight or flight for a long time. And then when that was too much, I kind of shut down in my nervous system. And so the very first thing that I did with my friend, with my friend's advice, was go to a park, sit down on a bench, and look at the tree, watch the leaves move, and leave your phone in the car. And I remember that was the hardest thing I had done at that time. This is probably 2019 or 18, something like that. And I struggled so hard with that. I remember not being able, I kept moving and looking at people. And I was also concerned. This is back before I started my healing journey. And I was also concerned about not having my phone and stranger danger. And I just had a hard time being in the present moment. And that was the beginning of my journey with presence. What about you, Isela?
Oh, as you're talking, I'm thinking about when I actually started to explore the idea of presence. So I lived in a state of disassociation. That's how I survived my childhood. I disassociated to the point where I lifted myself up over my what was happening in my life. I literally remember I was like 11 and 12, 13, and I watched myself move through the motions of my day. And I was so numbed out just trying to survive. Like that was just what I was trying to do. And I remember even telling myself to pull myself back in. Like I wish I didn't have the capacity, the understanding, the awareness to be able to pull myself back in to my body. And I stayed in this constant state of floating and for a long time. And I don't actually remember when I dropped back into my body because I experienced so much fear and trauma that was the way that I just functioned.
Mhm.
So I don't remember when that actually happened, but the idea of being present, like fully present in the experience, initially is scary as fuck, because that means that you have to get present with the fear, with all of the things that kept me disassociated, right? And so I remember the very first messages that I got around being present was really about mindfulness, like being aware of just what's happening. So that was my first like real exercise. And it comes from crap. Now I'm going to forget his name, but he's like the person who brought it over, one of the people who made it very, I don't want to say common knowledge, because it's John Kabat-Zinn. John Kabat-Zinn, that's his name. He is the one who spoke quite a bit about mindfulness and how to just get fully present in your day-to-day experiences. And that really was my first introduction to getting present. Now, at the time, I didn't realize like that's the only source of power we have is in the present moment. I was really just trying to get out of my head, because the voices, and I don't mean like voices like not like the voices were talking to me. Isn't that clear? It wasn't like that. But the sounds of my pain and my worry and my concern and my shouldas and all of those things were so loud that just silencing them was an effort in itself, right?
Yeah.
And so when you get present, you slowly get out of the headspace and you become aware of what's happening around you. And that was my introduction to it. And it literally, I used to be at like airports because I used to travel a lot, and I would just, when I would walk, I would just feel my foot touching the ground, the floor, the ground, wherever it was. When I would get on the escalator and in the airport, because there was sort of a routine that I would go through, I would just try to be fully present as I was having each one of those experiences. So that's
Mm.
my first memory, my conscious memory of trying to get into that present space.
I like see you in the airport and like see you with all your stuff and like trying to focus on your feet.
Yeah.
I don't want to brush past how challenging it can be for anyone who has experienced childhood trauma to be in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
Any trauma, but both your and I's situation, in our life, it began with childhood trauma. And it's because you're not safe. It doesn't feel safe to be in your body.
Yeah.
And to be in your body means like I'm in my body right now and I am present to my body,
Mm-hmm.
right? I always, when I first started life coaching, I was on a mindset level, and I often felt like I was walking around like a balloon, head, and then like nothing going on down below. And when the mindset coaches would say, well, let's like feel your feelings, I thought something was wrong with me because I couldn't feel anything past here. I could start to like cry a little, but like I couldn't feel any sensation or vibration beneath. Right. And so then I'm like, oh, something must be wrong with me because I can't, but it didn't feel safe in the body. And
Mm-hmm.
this is not you don't have language for it. You can't, you're not saying I don't feel safe in my body. Here's like, for example, before I got to the power of now and realized that there's power in the present moment. I was married and I was in the military, and then I left the military. I was raising a child, and here was my language. See if this resonates with anyone that's listening. I remember watching Oprah. I was drawn to Oprah, and I was drawn to like those kind of motivational things, because I wanted something better. But I would always say, I just feel so disconnected. I just feel so disconnected. I don't know how, like I felt that was the word. I feel so disconnected. And I was often depressed, and I would stay in bed all day on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like numb. felt numb. Even though I wanted to connect with my daughter, I was very numb.
Mhm.
So that was my language uh, for it. And so you wouldn't say, I just don't feel safe in my body. You wouldn't say that. Yeah.
So a couple things, actually, the first thing, and then I see if I'm going to remember the second thing. The first thing is there are a lot of programs across our nation, or there used to be, probably not anymore, on helping children get quiet. So meditation, mindfulness types of experiences to be able to help. What we found is kids who had experienced trauma really, really struggled with getting quiet because they didn't feel safe in their bodies. And so, and getting quiet makes, it's kind of what I was describing. It's like the noises
Yeah.
getting louder and it just becomes too overwhelming. I think that the disconnection from your emotional state is absolutely something that happens when, for a lot of us, for most people who've experienced significant trauma, and I want to just mention trauma is subjective, so everyone's own experience of it is going to be uniquely different. And so what happens is we disconnect ourselves from our emotional state because it makes it easier to be able to function and navigate through our experiences of life. If we didn't have somebody to co-regulate with us as young children, or to be able to help us process emotions, it still gets stuck in the body. It's like stored
Yeah.
in there, but we are disconnected. It's almost like we sever, not permanently. It's like tying a knot between our connection to this part of our awareness and the body sensations that really are just there to serve a purpose. But what happens is we kind of tie a knot so then it can't actually run through.
Mhm.
And the experience of reconnecting with your body sensations, I think, has to be a slow and intentional experience.
Yeah. It's like titrated experience um, on purpose, right? Like it needs to be. Now I've jumped in the deep end many times, but if I had to do it over, it would have been like you're saying, a slow process. And
Mhm.
slow is also subjective, but you said something important. And do you remember the second thing before I keep going?
No, I think that was the second thing.
Oh. You said something very important earlier, and I wrote it down. You said the power, the present moment is our source of power. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so we function on the level. I'm actually going to do a video about this. So here in this time space reality, we function on a continuum, right? We think in terms of years and months and days and minutes and seconds, and so we think linear like this. And so I paint this picture because that's kind of what happens with our projected thoughts. Okay. So our
Mhm.
projected thoughts, when we're like worried about what's going to happen, that's ego, right?
Yep.
Getting us concerned about all of the things that could happen. That's ego on overdrive. Oh my goodness, what if this? What if that? What if the worst case scenario? Blah, blah, blah. Keeps us out of the present moment. That's kind of ego's job. We need to stop thinking, and I say ego because it's a collective ego. We don't each individually have an ego. It's just the perception of separation that we've given power to. And so we have these ideas that keep us from present space, right? And then when we were concerned, and I do the other direction, if
Yes.
we're concerned about things that have already happened, and we're thinking and like thinking over and over and over again, of things that have already occurred, that really is ego pulling us into a state of guilt and shame.
Yes. Yes.
That's what happens.
Mhm.
And so we're in this constant state of moving back and forth. But really, in truth, the only thing that's real is the present moment. And the reason why it's only real, the present moment's the only period or time that's real, is because we see time on a linear on a linear projection. Like we see it move across time, either whether forward or back. In truth, time is actually vertical. So all things are happening at the same time. And so that's really freaky, because when we talk about past lives, we often think back, right? Back in my past life, my prior experiences.
Yeah.
But when you move beyond the time space reality, all things are happening at the same time. So your past life and your future life and all of the things that are happening at once.
Yes.
So that is our connection, because it's the only thing that's real is our connection. And I see our connection to source is just because time is vertical and not linear. I see our connection to source working along that same continuum. And so that is the only point of power. That's the power you have to change your perceptions. It's the point of power to connect to source. It's the point of power for you to get divine wisdom. It's the point of power that you have to connect to spirit, whatever that means for you. That's your only point of power. Anything projected forward or back is all ego.
I want to add to that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Trauma repair.
Oh, yeah.
So staying in line with time is not linear and it's all happening now. If your body is activated, you have this special invitation. I call it a special invitation because you can ignore it.
Yeah.
Right? You have this invitation to do a trauma repair, and it requires that you're able to feel the emotion. And so many people want to reprogram their mind, but they're not able to be in the present moment with that emotion. We cannot access that to do the trauma repair. And you know, that sounds like really complex, but basically it's like you're being activated in that emotion, and maybe your 5-year-old self is being activated, and I'm going to be careful not to say your past self, right? Your 5-year-old self is being activated. It's the same emotion in the body. And right now in this present moment, we have this ability to reparent, re-nurture, some sort of soothing, some sort of trauma repair in that moment. Tell her what is true, like something. So the power of the present moment is so everything that Isela said, plus that ability. If you're able to be present in the body with yourself, you can heal your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I get really passionate and excited about that because I spent about 41, 42 years thinking it was impossible. And all I could do, which I'm not saying is wrong, was just to go to talk therapy. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not all we can do.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the strategies that we use with kids is called the time machine.
Yes.
So like what happens is, there was a conflict that occurred, and then we'll bring the two children in, or however number of children together, and we work through the process of conflict resolution. And the idea is to go back into what happened to kind of make some resolution and to maybe choose a different way to do this. It's like once you have an awareness that maybe you said something or you did something, now we can choose to do it differently. And so what you do is you bring two kids together, again, doesn't matter how many, but that we are now going to do this experience in a different kind of way. And so because I had that experience as an educator, it's one of the things that I did for myself when I had a situation that went south, went in a way that I didn't want it to go in, that I had a challenging whatever come from it. I would go back to that experience and I would retell the story in a different way. Now, every story can be retold in a different way. And I'm going to tell you, because I know a lot of us are holding on to old pain and trauma and things that, people did that was really shitty. And I'm never going to tell you that it wasn't a shitty thing. And I'm never going to tell you that you deserved to be treated in any way, right? I'm never, ever going to say that. In my time, so one of the times with my mom, I had told my dad that my mom was going to send me to Texas without his permission. They were divorced since I was like little, like I was 2 or something. They were divorced. And I had said something to no. I don't remember what brought this on, but I told my dad on the phone in secret, like without my mom knowing, that she was going to send me to Texas to live with my grandma. And my dad lost his shit. He's like, you can't take her anywhere. You didn't even talk to me about it. And my mom was angry with me for saying that to him. And she locked me in a room for several days.
Oh my goodness.
And so I had to, and I was right before my sister was born. So I was like to
Mm.
7 years old. So she locked me in a room, and my tia happened to be staying with us from Texas. And so she would let me out when my mom was at work so I could eat and like do things like that. And then I had to go back into the room once my mom got home. And so those were one of the big traumatic experiences I had growing up. And so I would go back and I would retell a different story. It doesn't dismiss that it was a shitty ass experience, but there were some things that I learned from my tia about compassion. And
Yeah.
there were some things that I learned about my own resilience. There were some things that I learned about, yeah, it was a shitty, scary thing for me to get sent to Texas, but I formed a closer relationship with my grandma at the time.
Mm.
And my grandma was not a very kind person to anybody, but she had a fondness and a kindness to me. And so I formed a different sort of relationship with her. I mean, there were things that when we start to open up the hurt, the pain, and look at the other things that we may have gained from those experiences, the insight, the understanding, it's like I get to tell a different story about this, and I don't have to continue to see myself as a victim in the situation.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of those types of retelling the story
Mhm.
as I was moving through my healing journey.
Yeah. So, I'm glad you mentioned that, Isela, because I don't want to discount the fact that I did a lot of that without even being able to access my body,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and it was helpful. Rewrite. My original coach called it "How to Rewrite Your Past,"
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm imagining that little Isela might have had some stories about herself too
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
she needed to be reparented there and taught what was really true,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's important. So if you don't feel connected to your body, or you feel disconnected or disassociated, and don't discount that. You can still do that part, and it's allow the unfolding. And I'm reminded of this, and I was just reminded of this before this call, that there's an unraveling. So if you really struggle being in the present moment, you're right where you're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. And that becomes sort of our gateway into allowing us, because sometimes to hear the story, to remember the story, and to allow it to activate whatever's happening in our body is too much.
Yeah.
So when we start to retell the story a little bit different, now I can kind of tap in to Isela, who was 7 at the time, 6 or 7. Then now I can do some re-nurturing of her. I can then comfort her, hold her, rock her, tell her the things that she wished she would have heard. So it's like sometimes when we drop too quickly,
Yeah.
it's too much, and then we just fucking shut down.
Big time. It's such a good reminder, because many of my clients, what happens, especially if you have an inner critic, and many people with complex trauma have a heavy inner critic. We will make ourselves wrong because we're not doing this right.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're using any coping mechanism on your healing journey, whether it's overconsumption of personal growth stuff, or eating, or alcohol, or anything. It could be porn, self-pleasure, it could be anything, and you think you shouldn't be doing it. Permission to give yourself some grace, because it needs, like, there maybe one day you're able to, like, handle an emotion, and the next day you're not, and you go and seek comfort somewhere. Of course you did. It's how you survived, right? For Isella, maybe she noticed I disassociated there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course you did. It's how you survived,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so give yourself some compassion, give yourself some grace. Many times on my healing journey, I've overeaten, emotionally eaten something, because that was my coping mechanism, right? And I used to just shame myself about it, which causes more eating, right? But once I'm like, oh yeah, that was what got me through. It's like, okay, I can come back to the present moment now, right?
And I think that ego is the one who steps forward for first, and it's the one that keeps you in the shame cycle.
For sure.
And so when we start to align with the awareness of who we truly are, which is divinity and source, and or an extension of source, we are all uniquely having our own experience. When we start to align with that, we actually make space for light. And so that light that comes through, that radiation of light within us, activates our deeper knowing.
Yeah.
And so it's helpful, and this is where my spirituality, my self personal development ran parallel with one another, because I think sometimes when we think we're doing it all on our own, it can feel very daunting and overwhelming. Because if you ever had feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, or feeling alone or abandoned, then that's activated too.
I'll be here all on my own. Nobody's here to
Right.
help me.
And I'm too ashamed to tell people like what I'm really experiencing. And so when you start to really align with that awareness, the awareness of truth of who you are, you recognize that this is all divinely guided. You are supported in lots of different ways. It may not have happened in the way that you hoped, that you wished, or that should have happened, but it did. And so allowing this light and awareness at the deepest level of who we are actually, it can help the healing journey it can make it a much easier experience, because there's less, and I don't want to say this in a bad way, because I know how it can land, but we're less attached, because we start to recognize the power of our of where we come from, the power of being this divine being. We recognize that this experience we're having, although it feels very real, and it was very painful, and there were lots of ups and downs, and bad things and good things, we also recognize that we do exist beyond this time and space, and that this is one experience that our soul chose to have in order for this evolution process to happen.
Yeah. I want to kind of bring, before we end, a live example of bringing yourself to the present moment. So, one of my coping mechanisms was food. And once I solved that one, it transferred to social media. And
Mm,
it was the source of my shame for a couple years. But in January, I was really putting a lot of effort to lower the amount of scrolling I was doing. And I was standing in the bathroom doing my face routine that I do every night, and I could hear my overthinking voice. I could hear the ego talking about, like, oh my gosh, because I literally went to Costa Rica to work on this. And I come back and I'm doing the activities, I'm scrolling social media, and I am like letting myself have it. The ego is like, you went all the way there, you'll go to links to change your habits, and you're doing all this hard work, and here you are doing it again, and I'm feeling shame. And all of a sudden, I heard a drop in thought. It wasn't the ego, it was a deeper knowing of, like, but you're not doing it right now. You're not on social media right now,
mm,
right? And you've heard this before. If you haven't heard this before, it makes so much sense. What you give energy to grows,
mhm,
right? So if you're ever trying to like stop a habit, and I won't put bad on there, but just stop any habit, and you're just focused on the fact that you're not doing, I mean, you're doing the thing that you want to do, it grows. So I heard that and I was like, oh my gosh, right in this moment, I'm not doing the thing I don't want to do.
mhm,
And I got another message that at any moment, which is the present, you can decide to shift, to choose something differently.
mhm,
So the ego was in the future also, because it sounded also like this: oh, you're going to try again, you're going to fail in the future. You're going to try again and you're going to fail because you keep failing, right? And I was like, okay, so the ego is in the future, and then also the past, right?
right.
It's like, so I just knew that, like, so if you're in the future and you're in the past, try to bring yourself to present moment. And my way of bringing myself, Esau, I want to hear yours too, but my way is twofold. I got to usually I have to change my emotional state. I can do that with breath or senses. Smell usually is the one that helps me come back. Sometimes touch. Um, I do that. I'll just do this, and nobody can know what I'm doing usually if I do that. What do you do to bring yourself back if you find yourself not in the present?
My very first thing is to take a look at something that I see, and describe it full detail. So if it's a tree, I describe the tree and exactly what it looks like and all the things that I'm witness of. Sometimes, just depending on situations, it might be what I'm hearing. And so I'm going to lean into all of the little subtle noises that might be happening around me. And then my leaning smell for me is something that happens. Like I'll get a smell of something, and because of the way it crosses the brain, it's like, it's almost instant, takes you back to a place. And so I do that less frequently than I do my sight and hearing. I also do my body up again, wherever, if I'm standing, if I'm sitting, how my body touches the earth or how my body touches the furniture that I'm in.
Okay.
Here's a practice. So if this is hard for you, if it's really, really hard, just start with a practice of having like a Hershey's kiss, and just be with the Hershey's kiss. And so that, or an orange, so an orange or a mandarin, something like that. And the reason is because there's like this unfolding of it, but there's a sensation that happens with it. So like a Hershey's kiss, there's a foil wrapped around it. And so you're going to take the paper off, you're going to peel it. And what you want to do is really just have the experience of unwrapping the Hershey and then actually eating it, and then being in the experience of allowing it, however you eat it, whether you chew it or you let it melt in your mouth, like be in the experience of it. Same with like a mandarin or an orange. You're going to peel and you're going to have a sensation that comes with it, right? You're going to have the physical touch that's happening. You're going to have probably a scent that happens.
Yep.
It might be a little wet. So be in the experience of eating. This is a really, really good mindfulness practice that becomes easier and easier once you do more of these types of things. But because both, like a Hershey's kiss, I always do the Hershey's kiss to the best thing is like an orange, but not everybody likes oranges.
Yeah.
Or to peel it or any of that. That's why I offer the alternate experience. But it really is about just getting dropped into what's happening in front of you, dropped into the moment and out of the that's happening in your mind. Yeah.
I like that idea. What came to me was all emotional eaters are going to be like, I don't know about that. I don't know about this practice. Because I'm going to eat like 50 Hershey's Kisses. But yeah, I do think it's useful to have the orange as another option, because with the Hershey's Kiss, you can hear it, but you can't smell it right away, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can smell, as soon as you start peeling that orange, you can smell it.
Yeah.
Right?
If you go like this with a Hershey, you can definitely smell Hershey. You can definitely smell it.
So you start the senses right away. So you
Yeah.
have to be in the present. Yeah.
And in truth, mindfulness is a very important part of the emotional eating process.
It is. It is. That's one of the biggest obstacles, is that you're really, actually, you can't be in the present moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the ultimate goal, right? Is to be able to be mindful of the spoons that instead of like just doing this, you're like, okay, I can take one scoop at a time and chew my food.
It's a really good practice for people who are working to heal emotional eating, consciously consuming something really slowly. So I like that idea.
There's also things like lotion on the body. Sometimes people have weird sensations about that, or they're triggered for other reasons. But even just dropping some lotion and just putting it on your body and just feeling your own body as you're putting lotion on your body. So it's the experience of just dropping into this present space. I am telling you, we have to do this when we're not activated, when we're not like overly consumed with things, because then it becomes this cycle that we just can't get out of it. It's like a hamster wheel we just can't jump off of. And so you want to practice, and it could be 2 minutes, just 2 minutes. That's it. 2 minutes of recognizing what's happening in front of you. And the more that you can practice this process, the easier it becomes. And you can expand from 2 minutes to 5 minutes. And then ultimately what I do is I do an 80-20. And so 20% of my day is like really, I'm in my head. I'm like, I've got to pay the bills. I got to figure out what, when, how, and all of those things for planning. And then 80% of my day, I really try to be in the space of being present, but also being open, because I believe creativity, our true creativity, gets dropped in from source. I don't think we create anything on our own.
Yeah. Before, I know we're going to end soon, but something came to me as you were talking, and there's a practice that I do pretty regularly that over the last 6 months is embodied movement.
Mm-hmm.
And that is more of a meditative practice for me than sitting, because I also sit in my chair with coffee in the morning, and I'm just being with the coffee and the warmness of, so that's a little practice. So think about ways you can do it in your own life too, with no sound on and listening to the bird and, being with it. But the embodied movement is just turning on a song and allowing yourself to dance to it or move to it. You don't have to dance, but like move to it. And it's easy to be out somewhere else when you're doing it. But if you can bring yourself to the actual body and feeling your body, it's it's meditative as well. And I see it as a way to clear your channel. So a way to move any energy that you have in your body, and be in the present with the body as well, if you want to add the body in there.
Yeah. It's a mindful meditation. I mean, that really is what it is when you're dropping into the body that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
All righty, folks. Thank you for hanging with us. I think I fixed the comment. I think I fixed it on YouTube. We had a couple people say to us that they couldn't drop a comment on YouTube. And I think I just opened up the live chat. I'm going to try, if anybody's on with us right now, I would love for you to try to say hi to us.
Oh, that'd be cool.
If you can. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do.
I think I'm on Instagram. I think somebody typed in gorgeous.
Oh,
so
yay.
We have a comment.
We have a comment. Okay. Wait, who is gorgeous? I'm only kidding.
We both received that. Maya says hello. Hi.
Oh, wait. Okay. Look. Yes, we can comment now on from YouTube. Okay, because I was on YouTube. We had, I think it's just opening the chat up. Hi, Olivia. Hi, Michael. Okay, so now
awesome. Lori says hi, and she just made it to Phoenix. Yay,
Lori.
Yay. Oh, we're sending you big vibes for QuiltCon.
Yeah, I'm actually going to connect with her while she's here.
I am so excited for you guys. We talked about that. Maybe you could.
Yeah, so we're going to figure, I still have to send her a message directly. I got to look at my schedule.
I'm so jealous.
We can connect and have coffee.
Yay. Cool.
Yay. All women are. Okay, Michael.
All women are.
All righty, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. We are on Wednesday. Just FYI, we are on Wednesday, and we are doing live coaching on Wednesday. So if anybody would like to jump on and get some live coaching, we are here for that. And then we'll be on again on Friday. So make sure you follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channels, so that you get alerted when we come on live, because we don't always come on at the time that we say we're going to come on. So you need to have that alert turned on so you know when we're on. Okay?
Yes, you do. All right. Bye, guys. Bye, everybody.